I'd like to now introduce our highly esteemed lecturer, Tim McGirk, who I've learned so much from.
Thank you, Salsan, and thank you, Ryan. Those were great speeches, really. And thank you, everybody, for being here today on this beautiful day. And I'll bet this ceremony for all of you guys seemed so far away when you first got to the J School, and here you are, you know, class of 2018. Wow, it's amazing. It's just seeing the changes that you've been through. It's really been extraordinary. But I'd like you all to kind of go back to the first year, to a certain faculty-student meeting that we had. And it was right after Trump was elected president, and it was a moment of great anguish, confusion, uncertainty that you both mentioned. And I'm sure that a lot of you were thinking, geez, I've just signed up to a profession, and so many of its practitioners, the pollsters, the pundits, they got it so completely gobsmackingly wrong. You know, we all predicted a very different outcome. And at that meeting, I remember one student, I think it was you, Rosa, in the back there, who raised her hand and asked in a voice of desperation, how can we do journalism in a post-fact era when lies are given the same currency as truth? So how do you commit acts of journalism in a post-fact era? Well, you do it just the way that you've been doing it for the past 2 years, by going out and kicking some ass. And our political situation in Washington is really, it's sucked all the oxygen out of the room, out of the news pages, out of our fevered brains. And we can't let this happen. It's unhealthy for us as individuals and as a nation. But you all have done the right thing. I've been watching you and following what you've been doing, and you've focused on the wondrous and often crazy drama of human existence. And I hope you keep doing it. Class of 2018, you know, you've covered climate change, the alt-right protests here on campus, fires that turned the city of Santa Rosa into an ashtray. You traveled around the country trying to gauge why folks thought that Trump might have the answers to America's woes. You covered corruption stories in the Central Valley. You tackled immigration. You sought out stories in Africa, in India. Some of you traveled to Israel and to the West Bank, and I was fortunate to be able to tag along with you. And I didn't get a chance to see all of the showcases, but you've been doing just amazing stories, documentaries on everything from dust to drones to philosopher dancers who ride the Bay Area rapid transit system. You know, the breadth of your imagination and your curiosity is just bowled us all over. It's been so impressive. And but I'd like to go back to the Israel trip that I took with a lot of these guys. And what struck me was really the way that you all operated, how you helped each other, how you collaborated. You lugged each other's camera gear and suitcases. You pooled your ideas and resources. You were each other's best champions. And I think that's why you need to keep working together. You need to keep collaborating. And I have to say it wasn't like that when I graduated from journalism from Berkeley back in the 1970s. Back then we were trained to be kind of like greyhounds, kind of fast and super competitive. And supposedly our hero at the time was Merriman Smith. He was a White House correspondent for a now defunct news agency called UPI. And he was the techie of his day, and that was back in the 1960s. And it came time for the press to join the motorcade on President John F. Kennedy's trip to Dallas on that fateful day of November 22nd, 1963. And Smith, he made sure that he sat in the car that had a radio telephone, which was a new gadget in those days. Shots rang out, and Smith saw the president's limousine speed away. He grabbed the radio phone and called his desk at UPI. He yelled, "3 shots have been fired at President Kennedy's motorcade." Now, here's what made Smith famous or notorious, depending on how you want to look at it. He held on to that radio phone Wouldn't let any of the other reporters have it, and especially not his rival from the Associated Press. The reporters, they laid into Smith. They started pummeling him with their fists. They tried prying his hands off the radio phone until finally he was forced to let go. But thanks to Smith, UPI got a 4-minute, all of 4 minutes, a 4-minute jump on their rivals. And on a story like that, those 4 minutes were an eternity. But I'm happy to report to you all, parents and friends, that the class of 2018 is not like that. They're civilized and much more collaborative. And that's a very good thing. You know, you'll need to keep on collaborating. After all, you'll be reporting in an age when the complexities of society are growing by leaps and bounds, just as people's attention spans are shrinking. But now, as you get ready to walk out of this sunny courtyard, this sanctuary, for maybe the last time, I want you to promise me something. I want you to promise me that you'll be open to serendipity, to getting swept away, to taking risks, to being open to chance encounters. It's also about relying on your instincts, about who you trust, or which way to go at a crossroads. It's about seizing an opportunity, even if it comes bouncing at you from off the wall. I know, this may sound a little counterintuitive when you've succeeded this far by carefully plotting your next move. But let me give you an example. When I graduated from Berkeley, I couldn't find a decent job. So I decided to go to Madrid, Spain for a few weeks. Franco, the dictator, had just died. I had every intention of coming back here. I had a girlfriend in Berkeley that I was crazy about, and I loved the Bay Area. You know, who doesn't, especially on a day like this? But one night in Madrid, at a bar where all the waiters were failed bullfighters and where Hemingway used to write, well, mainly drink, the way the waiters told it, I got mixed up with another American, a reporter from the New Orleans Times-Picayune newspaper. And that same night, after way too many drinks, he and I decided to go cover a war that had broken out somewhere down in the Sahara Desert. Well, I got as far as Morocco, and I found out that the reporter in Morocco for UPI, the same agency that Merriman Smith had worked for, had just been kicked out for spying. So I pretty much just dusted off his typewriter and started filing stories. You know, I wouldn't come back to live and work in the United States for 33 years. It's like light years. And that girlfriend who was waiting for me in Berkeley, somehow I convinced her to come to Morocco and marry me. And we've been together ever since. So remember, take chances, believe in serendipity. And one last thing in this building, you hear so much talk about truth in reporting, speaking truth to power, and so on and so forth. You know, there's a lot to be said for all that kind of truth, but there's a different kind of truth-seeking that you don't usually associate with journalism, but it's there. On every story, you learn something about yourself, about who you really are, about your values, about the validity of your opinions. Facing danger, having to deal with people who are in pain and in distress, or who are very angry at you. And believe me, you'll be making a lot of people very angry. And in those kind of situations, you can learn a lot about what you're made of. A lot of times, we get so caught up in the chase, in deadlines, in getting our facts right, that we forget this important point. But every story is a way of taking a measure of yourself. And journalism is one of the few professions that allows you to do that. And that's what really makes it so exceptional. You know, I know this all sounds a little preachy and new agey, but hey, this is Berkeley, I'm allowed to do it. So class of 2018, it's been wonderful knowing you all. And many of you become good friends, and I really wish you the best of luck. Thank you.